Okay. Welcome, everyone. Okay.
So, you said you wanted to work on defense. What have you guys been doing this week?
Defense. Like, they've been working. It's been a long week. We're going to be a little tired tomorrow, but just definitely better. I think just our rotations, our, discipline, just all those things, which a lot of times with 7 players, like, we're kind of like that right now, but it's just like our rotations, our hugging on the weak side, like just things we don't do, but it's just a lot of new people. So we have a lot of defensive work, but we'll get there. It's just, and I think it's fun, just the process of it, but a lot of work.
Do they like it? Do they think it's fun?
Probably not. Like, they don't like sliding. They don't like their legs are all hurting. But like I just saw, we weren't conditioned to play the type of defense we want. Like we're not in shape right now. Which I don't mind that we're not in tip-top shape, but to play our way and just to play as fast and as we want, we got a lot of work to do. And this is really the last week I can really, really push us. I mean, I could push us in the non-conference, but not like now. So it's kind of the last week where we're kind of going hard conditioning, and we just kind of a little bit behind. We haven't had everybody healthy at once. We've kind of been like spotty, and people been out for random stuff. Like one person out for a week, one person's sick, one person's back. So I think we only had a couple practices with everybody. Then Lauren was out, and then back, and then now she's out. And then Kate was just like limited in the beginning. Now she's full, but like it's just the numbers. It's funny because when you have 15 people, like, oh, we have so many people, it's hard to get everybody in. And then when you don't have 15, you're like, I wish we had 15. Like it's one of those things where it's just how it is. If you had 15, everybody would be healthy. Then when you have like 12, a lot of people are out here and there. So but I think that sometimes it will enable us to play small sometimes. So I think putting like Jade's kind of big and strong, putting her at the 4, putting Helena sometimes because she knows every position. I think we'll play small sometimes.
And is there anybody or anything that sort of, I don't want to say surprised you this week, but sort of made you a little bit happy that, oh, like the light bulb's going off, or they've been working on something and all of a sudden they're starting to get it?
I think Jade, but Jade's a 5th year. She's more experienced. I think her kind of learning our style, and she really works at it and wants it, and she's played longer. So I think she's able to pick up stuff faster just because of knowledge. So she's been really good. I think Lamaya's a really fast learner. Lamaya, defensively, she's gifted. She's super fast, super athletic, and she picks up defensively really well. Maya's now back in full-fledged. She had been limited the whole time. So she's kind of getting in shape. So she's learning. She has a high basketball IQ, very fundamental. As far as Mary, I think the benefit of her, we do some things different. So like her habits on some rotations are just different from being at West Virginia, but her tendencies are similar to ours. So they played aggressive defense and they pressed and they were physical. So I think that helps her minus like the rotation. Like they kind of X out on things and we don't, or just different things, but she'll be fine once she learns our system. And then the freshmen are freshmen. Freshmen don't know what's going on. That's just freshmen. I mean, they're like, freshmen are kind of like a deer in headlights sometimes just because it's a lot of stuff. And then, like, especially like Kaylin, if you're a point guard, you're trying to learn, like, which way to run things. You're learning to plays yourself. You're learning a whole new system. High school kids do not play defense. So you just always score. So I think learning, like Kaylin, it's a challenging in Paris because you're, like, picking up a lot. Then you're running the team, and you have to be vocal, and you're, like, a freshman. She's got 2 wings that are experienced usually if she's playing with Jade and Lauren. So I think it's not easy. But Lauren Fields has been good too. She's a really good defender. She's just working to get in shape. But I think it's all kind of work in progress. So the positive side of it is we're getting better, but we got a way to go. But I'm optimistic.
I saw some schools are just doing one exhibition. Did you think with this many people you really needed to?
Yeah, this many new people. So, yeah, I didn't know. I guess some are doing like an exhibition and a closed scrimmage, but I felt like for us, one of the things is we missed some home games last year. And so, like, with our crowd and everybody so excited, selling all the tickets, I thought there was momentum. I wanted to do 2 to get us out in front of people. And I think there was like 3,000 people or 4,000 people at the game, which is good for an exhibition. But I wanted us to get in the uniforms, have them feel what this is like. This is a way different crowd than anybody's played in front of. And I think exhibitions are good. And I like to play, I'm going to be scheduling MT every year. So we play a couple more games because I like that. There's some gaps in the schedule I don't like, even this year. And some of that's a product of trying to get games. But I'm already working next year and a couple years out. Like I'm already grabbing some games for like 24, 25, just because if I can schedule like, 3-year contracts, it's easier. It's just hard to schedule. And Dawn, it's just hard. A lot of good programs that win at home go through it.
At Media Day, you talked some about scheduling, maybe getting home and home at UConn.
Yeah.
And finally getting that Texas game back.
Yeah.
You're seeing those kinds of things happen?
Yeah, so we already, those were both all set. So not next year, the year after we start with UConn. So we'll start at home and home. I think that's a great experience. I mean, they're always a powerhouse and just the experience for our players. The hard thing about some of those games is they want to be in January for TV. So our conference is trying to we're starting our rival game before Christmas. This year we couldn't because of scheduling. Like when we kind of agreed on that as a conference, as coaches, we had already finished most of our schedule, so it was late. So ASU, Natasha and I tried 10 dates, and it was funny because we would play one day before they would play, then we were gone for Thanksgiving. Then it was hard. It was a nightmare. We tried everything, and then that made us pushed us to play right after Christmas, which isn't ideal for either of us. We were not happy to start off with 3 games the first week and then open the weekend away at Stanford and Cal. So we were both like, okay, that's not a great start. We don't want to play our rival team right after Christmas break, but it is what it is. We couldn't control it. So right now we're talking about next year already to get that on the books because that's a necessity and then go from there. So it's already a lot of work for next year because I want to get that done in the next month or 2.
When you first started here, you were like, I remember you were like, I'm not scheduling the UConns because you guys weren't ready at all.
No.
Now you're ready. And so what's that like for you to be all of a sudden oh, we can play them?
Well, I think that we can play anybody. Yeah, we just weren't there yet. We would have got killed by 50. I think now, winning or losing, it's still the experience, and I think we can compete with anybody. So I think it's now the time to play those teams, and then also play them at home. I think also for Tucson and for our players, we'll sell out here. And I think that's what kind of UConn does. They go places and you sell out. So I think it's a great atmosphere. We wouldn't be putting on the schedule UConn, South Carolina, all in 1 year, I'll tell you that. But next year's a hard schedule. And then also I think there's a balance of playing those good teams. We're playing this year Baylor at a neutral site. I think playing those good teams and getting them at home, we're getting Texas at home next year, those are important games. And I think even the Kansas series this year is a really good game. But you don't want 4 of those and then you're battling, then you go in the conference. If our conference wasn't strong, we'd do that a lot more, just like kind of UConn does in their non-conference, but our conference is good. So, but who knows what's going to happen and how the conference shake up, and that'll determine a lot. But I'm curious to see how all that's going to happen because we have no idea.
At one time you guys had talked about going to more games like the men do. And so now you're just waiting to see what happens with the conference?
Yeah, so over half of us, or almost half of us, wanted more conference games. And I was one for voting for more conference games because it's hard to get games. And I wanted to play those quality opponents, but then we were voted and the people that wanted more didn't win. So we played less conference games. But yeah, I would be up for playing more games. I'm not 40 games or something, but if there was a few more games, I think that's fine. But then extending our season, I kind of like playing our conference rival before. It's just the dates are hard when you're trying to get all these non-conference games and you're trying to get a lot of home games, so that's hard. But I kind of like that because then we have the flexibilities to play the UConn or those marquee games in January. Otherwise, remember Oregon a couple of years did it. It's really hard. So I think I kind of like that. Then if we needed to make up a game. But we're going back to those rules of there isn't those COVID rules anymore. So you miss, you forfeit. So there won't be a lot of misses again, I'm sure. And COVID's probably the same, but you know how that is. It's we're going back to normal.
What do you want to see tomorrow?
Better defense. I'm going to work in some different combinations. We don't have a set starting lineup, so mix some things up. I think making sure that everybody's as motivated as they should be, regardless of who we're playing, because it's not about that, it's about us. I want to see a little bit better execution. We took way too many shots, in that 20-second range. I'd say 15 to 22 seconds, we took probably 80% of our shots. That's not when I want to shoot in the shot clock. So that's a one dribble pass shot. So that's not the offense I want. More people touching the ball, just a big difference. So we're working a ton on reversing the ball. Like I mean, like it it never got to the weak side corner, ever. Get alone back. Like that was just like so we're working a ton on when to take the shots now, the shot clock. We're working a ton on defense, on just like the first principle of defense is starting in your one-on-one responsibility. So if you're getting blown by, regardless of the rotation, it's not. So the first thing is like containing your person, having some pride in that, and knowing who you're guarding. We only have two people we, fully close out to usually. And so knowing that and understanding that, and that's what these games are for. And then when you do press and you are on someone, you're picking up, then there's help. So not being hugged on the weak side. But some of that's fatigue because people are so tired. They're on the weak side, and that's like you don't focus when you're tired. So working through some of that, and you'll see different people playing together. You'll see a different starting lineup, like all those things. It's that time of year to kind of see how we can go and who works together, and I think it's fun to kind of test that.
This is one of the first times that I think you really haven't known who your starting lineup is.
Because we're so different this year, and there's so many new people, and we have some experienced transfers. And I think there's a lot of standards, and so like if you're a freshman and you're doing all the right things and working really hard, then that's the standard I want. Kate's working really hard, being vocal, that's the standard I want. So I think that you have to set the standards. I'm not a coach that ideally, typically in the past, would change a starting lineup every game, but if that's what I have to do and that's what this team needs, I'm going to do that to keep people motivated and on their A game. And so I think as a coach, you have to do what you need to do for your team to be successful. But that's not ideal. So even if you have to do that early and then you find a set later, that's okay. I think that's what the preseason's for, and that's what you got to do. But the end result is winning games and what I can do to make this team the best. So every year that looks different. That's hard as a coach. Like 1 year it's this, 1 year it's more like I don't know, maybe it's more off the court stuff. It's more like team building. 1 year it's maybe more basketball type stuff off the court. Like there's different motivating factors for different people. Like I think if you have a player like Trinity from before Aerie, like they're workhorses and they're just like, so that's contagious. So I think the teams are always different and need different things. So I'm learning that in my 7 years. You don't know that at first as a head coach. You just kind of like, you do what you do. Like, so there's going to be different sets I run this year because we have different shooters on the wing. So like as a coach, I think sometimes some coaches just kind of have their system and like people fit in their system. I just kind of, if I like a player that like Jade who has what I like, or like Lauren or Esmeri or Kate, or I think you adjust what you have to your players. Caitlin's young and used to really being dominant on the ball. Not bad. It's just so I have to find ways as a coach to create a situation where she gives it back. So she's not stuck with it because she's learning how to read the game. So and that's the fun part, I think, and that's the hard part. You got to figure out, okay, like an example is Aerie. I knew if Aerie took the ball, she can go one-on-one anytime. But then I knew the 4 people around her would be sitting there watching. So I had to create, as a coach, stuff where she would give the ball up, maybe get it back on the back end and do something and create for someone else, or different stuff like that. And that's hard. And so you have to, but I think that's coaching, is putting that together. And so racking my brain about, okay, this person does this. How do I get them out of that habit in the flow of the game? Jade wants to do this. How do I get that not to be early? Maybe I have her running off something later after a reversal. So that's the creative part. And probably when I'm in my 30th year, it's a little easier because you've had all those teams. Like since I'm in my 7th year, I'm just having these situations. Does that make sense? So my first year I had one thing, like we couldn't shoot. Then I got these players. So now it's like learning how to have these players and adjust things. So that's a part of experience, right? That's why you can't teach experience.
How much does it help you to have coaches with more experience? I mean, like Salvo and Bed.
It helps. I think, because they're really all experienced. If you look at the staff, what's funny? This is the most experienced staff I've had. Now that I think about it, for sure, by far. Because like Jackie had been coaching like just a year. Tamisha had coached a long time, but kind of like in and out. So if you look at Bet, it's like 16 years. So she has so much experience with recruiting and like that really helps. She's been a really big program. She has brought a lot to this program, like a lot. And then you have Erin, who's been in so many different programs, like from Memphis to New Mexico to USC. So she's seeing a lot of different things. So her input's really valuable. She's like on her, I think, 15th year. She's 15? I think she's, because her and Ashley are about like the same. And Ashley too. So they've touched a lot of different, Ashley's just been at one program longer. She was at Oklahoma State a lot longer, 6 years. But I think it's a benefit, like you kind of hear, oh, at Memphis we did this, or New Mexico. You kind of hear different things. And then Salvo was a head coach. He was the only one with head coaching experience. A head coach for a long time, coached different national teams. So his input, and they're all so different. Like, very different. Different strengths, different, like Aaron's a lot more offensive, Salvo's a lot more defensive. And Bet is really big on like, just like skill development and like organization of the program and recruiting and ideas and looking way ahead. And then Ashley has experienced kind of at all of it. But in the game, she's worked a lot with post players. So I think that they all bring really different things, and it's made us a good balance. And it's just a lot of people. It's like we have a lot of staff. So I think just getting used to now we have this creative spot, like all those things. So you got to manage it all, which is good because they're good people, but it's just a lot of new people. Because there was some things this year, I had 2 people on staff like 6 years, and so, or 5 and 6 years. So there was stuff this year, I'm like, okay, somebody asked me where something was, and I was like, oh, I got to look. Because I don't know, he's done that for 6 years. I don't know where he put that. You know, stuff like that, I think. And I think when you're coaching longer, you kind of gone through those cycles more. So a lot of that's new. So not only new players, new staff. So there's been a lot of new stuff. Some probably already have gray hairs. We haven't started season yet, but I think it's going to be. I think there's like rough patches now that are worth it later. I think we're doing some cool stuff that's cutting edge. So that's what you want.
Each year, your system does change, and you've always said it is around the people who you have, the personnel. What do you think that we'll see this year that will be so different? I know when I watched that first exhibition game, I kept saying to Kim, God, this looks so different. Like, because we're used to, like, Sam was the glue for the whole time, and we're used to certain things. And there are still five players who we know sort of where they are, but it looks all different.
Oh, it feels different. I think you don't realize, like, Sam was such a staple and such a glue person, and just like knew the system so well, was such a quiet, like, assassin, but always in the right spot, always helping. And then you think of just all the things, he knew every position. So I think you realize how much you missed that. When I look on film, I'm like, whoa, like it's all new. So I think it's just work in progress. But Sam wasn't Sam her first year. So I think I'm optimistic about that, but that's hard. I think, but there's so many areas we're better in. Like, we're definitely better in rebounding. I mean, as Mary's brought that. Lauren, she didn't play a good game last game, but she's a really good player, and she's strong, and she's a great person. Like, I love coaching her. Great attitude, great work ethic. She'll end up being a leader, but she's just like new and kind of like she's starting to be more vocal, but she'll bring that. And then so as Mary heard, then Jade brings us that strong guard, but it's like a really big offensive threat. So I think it looks way different. I think we score better, but now it's just, I think the challenge is always, can you score the same and like play the same defense? So I think obviously our scoring is going to be ahead. Like, we didn't have a tough time scoring. We didn't share the ball a lot, but I mean, we shared it. But like I think everybody's trying to do good the first game, get into their own, which is good. I think it's they're confident and positive, but just kind of getting in sync and getting adjusted, and then bringing the freshmen in there. So not putting like 3 freshmen on the court together where they're all like, putting a freshman, like putting Kaylin in with 2 experienced wings, putting Paris and Lamaya with like some experienced players around them. So that's kind of the mixture now, and getting them game experience. That's kind of the balance early in the season. You want to get game experience, and you want to work on these things, but you want to win games. So that's the balance. So we have a lot of work, but but I think we're going to be a really good team. Like, on paper, this is the best team we've had. So now it's like putting it together. So we shall see, Okay. Cut it. Cut the mic.